I've heard of him.
Apparently, and I think the story is true, then they have a meeting. You know, they do the meetings. And Diller said, you got the gal. You can do a hell of a lot better.
Boy, it's really scary being unconscious. Your mind takes you places you never thought it could go. One moment, you're lying on a hospital bed, staring at the white ceiling, and the next, you're convinced that two little leprechauns and a red-headed giant are rifling through your pockets. You can almost hear them whispering about your lost homework, or maybe about your lunch money, though the idea of imaginary creatures on a mission makes the stomach churn in a peculiar, surreal way. And somehow, despite all the absurdity, your brain insists that this is entirely plausible. And then there's the hallway. This is where your locker is, where every encounter feels like it's staged for some unseen audience. Kelly and Connie stand there, the kind of conversation that seems mundane but teeters on the edge of chaos. Kelly, we've been at school for hours. Will we be going in a classroom today? Connie asks, a mix of confusion and resignation in her voice. Kelly doesn't miss a beat, though, ready with a quip that's both lazy and biting, a perfect encapsulation of teenage apathy that somehow feels both exaggerated and eerily real. Meanwhile, on the other side of the country, somewhere, in Fort Lauderdale, the sun is beating down on a summer Labor Day weekend celebration. There's a radio DJ, a mic, and a crowd that doesn't know how to react to what's being played. You'd have to be a real noif to even begin to understand why this moment, this mundane slice of life, suddenly feels historic. And as absurd as it all sounds, the leprechauns, the lockers, the lazy teenage remarks, there's a kernel of truth. Life, in all its chaotic, comedic, often uncomfortable glory, is far stranger than fiction. This is the perfect entry into the world of Married with Children, a show that, like your unconscious mind, mixes reality with the absurd, humor with discomfort, and everyday frustrations with over-the-top exaggeration. It doesn't ask permission. It doesn't sugarcoat. And just like that hallway, or that imagined attack by tiny mythical creatures, it leaves you unsettled, laughing, and somehow deeply, undeniably aware of the chaotic human experience. When Married. With Children first aired, it did more than challenge television norms. It tore them apart entirely. The sitcom landscape of the late 1980s was dominated by warm, idealized families, the kind that seemed too perfect to live next door, yet somehow comforting in their predictability. Shows like The Cosby Show had set a template for a harmonious family unit, a template that the average viewer could both admire and aspire to emulate. Into this controlled world, Michael G. Moy and Ron Levitt arrived with a radical, almost audacious idea. What if a family on TV reflected reality a little more honestly, a little more brutally, and with a lot more humor? The creators' goal was deceptively simple. They wanted to present a lower middle-class family with all the tension, disappointment, and comical frustration that real life entailed. This wasn't about teaching moral lessons or showcasing life's successes. This was about showing life unfiltered. Crude humor, sexual innuendo, and an irreverent tone were not afterthoughts. They were deliberate tools designed to make audiences laugh while simultaneously holding a mirror to society. Every lazy sigh, every sarcastic retort, every small defeat was a reflection of viewers' own lives, exaggerated for comedic effect, but grounded in a shared understanding of human imperfection. Yet the concept was risky. ABC, CBS, and NBC had long dominated with their safe, structured programming, carefully calibrating content to avoid controversy. By contrast, Fox, a fledgling network still struggling for identity, saw the potential in a show that pushed boundaries. Rather than shy away from the provocative, Fox encouraged Moy and Levitt to push the limits, to embrace the shocking, the uncomfortable, and the hilarious. The result was a show that would immediately stand out, both celebrated for its audacity and vilified for its crudeness. Married with Children was not just a sitcom, it was a statement. It said that television could be bold, irreverent, and unafraid of offending. It said that audiences were ready to see themselves, warts and all, on the screen. And most importantly, it signaled the birth of a new era in American television, one where comedy didn't have to be polite, and where controversy could be a sign of cultural relevance rather than moral failure. The story of Married with Children didn't begin in front of cameras or under studio lights. It began in a small writer's room where Michael G. Moy and Ron Levitt sat with a single vision: to create a family unlike any seen before on television. They didn't want another warm, aspirational household. They wanted a family that audiences could recognize from their own neighborhoods, filled with frustration, disappointment, and humor that wasn't sanitized. To achieve this, they didn't shy away from controversy. Crude jokes, sexual innuendos, and biting sarcasm were written into the fabric of the show, not as gimmicks, but as instruments to reveal real human behavior in exaggerated form. They envisioned Al Bundy as a man defeated by life, Peggy Bundy as a wife whose laziness and playful rebellion made her irresistibly funny, and their children, Kelly and Bud, as young people navigating adolescence with a mixture of naivety and sly cunning. The network environment was pivotal. Unlike ABC, CBS, or NBC, Fox was still finding its identity and was unafraid to gamble on programming that the Big Three would never dare. Fox executives encouraged the writers to test limits, to push boundaries of taste and convention, and to embrace the very elements that would make the show controversial. The network understood that in a crowded market, boldness could be the difference between obscurity and cultural impact. Casting became the next critical phase. It wasn't just about finding actors. It was about finding personalities that could embody these unconventional characters. The creators knew that chemistry, timing, and authenticity would determine whether the show resonated or fell flat. Every actor brought something unique to the table, something that would shape the Bundy family's identity and ensure that their on-screen antics felt both outrageous and credible. The set itself became a crucible of creativity. Sarcasm, improvisation, and genuine camaraderie combined to create an environment where the characters' flaws could shine naturally. Even small gestures, a slouch, a sigh, a sarcastic glance, became part of the character's vocabulary. It was in these early days that the essence of Married with Children was forged, a show that reflected life's frustrations, absurdities, and comedy in equal measure. Casting for Married with Children was as critical as writing the script itself. The Bundy family couldn't exist on paper alone. They needed actors who could embody the satire, the frustration, and the humor with a natural ease that made the characters believable. Ed O'Neill walked into his audition in 1986 with a weariness that seemed effortless, slumping into a chair and letting out a long, tired sigh. It was a gesture he had picked up from his own family, but in that moment it became Al Bundy's signature, defeated, exasperated, yet darkly funny. The creators knew instantly that they had found their lead. O'Neill's ability to mix apathy with defiance made Al Bundy unforgettable, the kind of anti-hero that television rarely dared to showcase. Katie Sagal arrived with a burst of energy, her flaming red hair and tight, provocative outfit immediately defining Peggy Bundy's essence. She embodied rebellion, a wife who lazily teases her husband but does so with a charm that made it impossible to look away. Her presence balanced Al's cynicism perfectly, and her comedic timing became a crucial pillar of the show's humor. The role of Kelly Bundy, originally cast with Tina Casper, underwent a pivotal change after the pilot. Fox executives felt that the chemistry with the rest of the cast was missing. Enter Christina Applegate, just 15 years old, bringing an energy that was both innocent and sly, perfectly capturing Kelly's allure and teenage mischief. She quickly adapted to the sarcastic yet welcoming atmosphere of the set, blending seamlessly with her on-screen family. Bud Bundy's role initially went to Hunter Carson, but like Kelly, the chemistry wasn't right. 12-year-old David Fino auditioned and immediately impressed with his timing and ability to navigate the show's adult themes. His nervous excitement mixed with comedic precision, making Bud both endearing and mischievous. Beyond the Bundy family, the neighboring Rhodes household required a satirical foil. Amanda Bearse, cast as Marcy Rhodes, brought a seriousness and counterbalance that highlighted the Bundys' absurdity. Though the cast was initially cynical, they developed a bond that mirrored the family dynamics portrayed on screen. Katie. Seagal often remarked that Ed O'Neill was hilarious from the very start, while Applegate felt like part of a family almost immediately. This chemistry was indispensable. It was the secret ingredient that allowed the characters to leap off the screen with vibrancy and authenticity. When the pilot aired, Fox executives responded with cautious excitement. They praised the Bundy family's chemistry, but noted that the Rhodes characters lacked punch. The network recognized that the show was sharp, provocative, and entirely unconventional, a clear signal that Married with Children would not follow the typical sitcom trajectory. Unlike the predictability of ABC, CBS, or NBC programming, the Bundys were messy, sarcastic, and unapologetically flawed. Fox's approach reflected a calculated risk. They understood that the show's adult humor, sexual innuendo, and satirical tone might provoke backlash. Yet they also recognized that controversy could fuel popularity. By encouraging the writers and actors to embrace the provocative elements fully, Fox allowed the show to flourish in a way other networks never would have attempted. Critics initially struggled to categorize the program. Some hailed it as revolutionary, a clever subversion of the family sitcom formula. Others condemned it as vulgar, claiming that it promoted laziness, immorality, and disrespect within households. Still, the tension between praise and criticism only amplified the show's visibility. Viewers tuned in, eager to see the audacity for themselves. Even before major controversies erupted, the show had established a tone that combined sarcasm, irreverence, and biting social commentary. It was not a sitcom that asked permission from its audience, it asserted itself. Every line, every gesture, and every misadventure of the Bundys served to challenge norms, and the network's willingness to support this daring vision set the stage for the storm of attention that would soon follow. The tipping point came in 1989 with the episode Her Cup's Runneth Over, where Al Bundy and his friend Jefferson went lingerie shopping for their wives. What might have been an ordinary comedic setup became a flashpoint for national outrage. Scenes featuring semi-nude characters, sexual innuendo, and a flamboyant gay character wearing a crown drew sharp criticism from parents and advocacy groups. In Michigan, Terry Reckel, a mother of 4 and sister-in-law to the state's governor, spearheaded a boycott campaign. She wrote letters to major corporations, urging them to pull advertising from the show, citing it as morally corrupt and harmful to American families. Within weeks, the story became a national media sensation, with headlines highlighting the conflict between free expression, humor, and public morality. Several high-profile advertisers, including Gillette, Warner Lambert, and Coca-Cola, withdrew their sponsorships. Fox, still a fledgling network competing against established giants, felt the financial pressure immediately. To ease tension, they pulled the episode I'll See You in Court, which contained explicit sexual content and addressed eavesdropping in a hotel room, a topic considered beyond acceptable bounds at the time. Yet Fox Entertainment president Jaime Kellner refused to fully capitulate. He argued that the criticism was selective, pointing out that many shows contained similar themes without facing such intense scrutiny. This stance allowed the creators to continue pushing boundaries creatively, refining their approach to humor under pressure. Ed O'Neill recalled the tension vividly. The pressure was intense, but I think it made the show sharper. We had to be more creative in how we delivered the laughs. The backlash also had unexpected side effects. While the show faced moral outrage, Viewership surged. The forbidden allure of a sitcom that dared to break rules attracted more eyes than any marketing campaign could have achieved. Married with Children had transformed controversy into an engine for popularity, demonstrating that in entertainment, shock could be a powerful catalyst for cultural resonance. For the cast, early controversies were both a challenge and a revelation. Katie Sagal described the experience as being scrutinized for every line, every gesture, which forced her to sharpen her comedic instincts. She acknowledged the intensity of performing under such scrutiny, but also noted that it fostered a unique camaraderie on set. Christina Applegate, only 15 at the time, suddenly found herself in the public eye as a teenage sex symbol. While this recognition opened new opportunities, it also brought immense pressure, requiring her to navigate fame, criticism, and adolescence simultaneously. She reflected on the complexity of playing Kelly Bundy, a character who was both naive and cunning, and how this duality mirrored the show's larger themes of contradiction, irony, and humor. Ed O'Neill saw the controversy as a test of resilience. The backlash did not intimidate him. Instead, it challenged him to embody Al Bundy more fully. The role demanded a balance of apathy, sarcasm, and subtle defiance, qualities that made Al both relatable and unforgettable. Amanda Bears portraying Marcy Rhodes offered insight into the social dynamics of the cast. While the characters were opposites, Marcy as a foil to the Bundys, the actors formed a strong bond that translated into on-screen chemistry. She recalled early rehearsals as tense, but ultimately nurturing, where satire, improvisation, and humor converged to create the show's signature tone. The cast's reflections underscore the interplay between performance, public perception, and personal growth. Each actor contributed not only talent but perspective, shaping a show that was simultaneously controversial, hilarious, and culturally resonant. Their experiences highlight the human side of television, where behind every laugh lies the dedication, vulnerability, and creativity of those bringing the story to life. Ironically, the very controversies that threatened to end Married with Children became the catalyst for its success. Despite public boycotts, declining advertiser support, and intense scrutiny, the show's viewership soared. Before the backlash, the series ranked modestly in the national ratings. Afterward, from seasons 4 through 8, it consistently placed in the top 50, proving that controversy can serve as the ultimate marketing tool. The show's legacy extends beyond ratings. It redefined the boundaries of sitcom humor, demonstrating that television could reflect life's imperfections without apology. Characters like Al Bundy, Peggy Bundy, Kelly, and Bud became archetypes, representing frustrations, desires, and absurdities that viewers recognized instantly. Their influence is evident in later sitcoms that embraced satire, cynicism, and adult-oriented humor. Married with Children also sparked a cultural conversation about morality, censorship, and entertainment. The public debate surrounding episodes, like Her Cup's Runneth Over, highlighted the tension between creative freedom and societal expectations. While some critics condemned the show for its crude humor and perceived immorality, audiences celebrated its honesty, relatability, and audacity. For the cast, the experience left an indelible mark. They navigated fame, criticism, and the pressures of adolescence and adulthood under the public eye. Christina Applegate's rise as a teen icon, Ed O'Neill's enduring role as a satirical anti-hero, and Katie Sagal's embodiment of rebellious charm all contributed to a show that remains iconic decades later. Ultimately, Married with Children proved that risk, controversy, and unfiltered storytelling could achieve lasting cultural impact. It wasn't just a sitcom, it was a revolution in televised comedy, a mirror held up to society, and a reminder that laughter often comes from the unlikeliest, most uncomfortable places. In the end, the Bundy family's legacy is one of audacity, humor, and the enduring truth that television doesn't have to be polite to be unforgettable. The early years of Married with Children were not just about scripts, auditions, or network debates. They were about how the cast lived through the storm of scrutiny and fame. For many of the actors, the public backlash was both exhilarating and daunting. Katie Sagal, who portrayed Peggy Bundy, described feeling the weight of every line, every gesture being dissected in newspapers, magazines, and letters sent to Fox. She remembered sitting on set, rehearsing a scene, only to realize that somewhere in the country, a parent or activist was shaking their head at her portrayal. And yet, she found that pressure sharpened her instincts, forcing her to deliver timing, sarcasm, and subtle nuances that would have otherwise gone unnoticed. Peggy Bundy's rebellious, teasing charm became all the more layered because of it. Christina Applegate, barely 15 when she stepped into the role of Kelly Bundy, faced the extraordinary challenge of becoming a teenage sex symbol almost overnight. While this brought opportunities for fame and recognition, it also brought intense scrutiny from the media and public alike. Her every appearance, interview, and even off-screen behavior was analyzed, judged, and debated. Yet, Applegate managed to harness the spotlight, blending Kelly's innocent yet sly persona with a sense of self-awareness that made her both relatable and iconic. She often reflected that the experience taught her resilience, professionalism, and the unique pressure of performing in front of an audience that was at once critical and enamored. Ed O'Neill, as Al Bundy, felt the backlash differently. His role demanded a constant balance of apathy, defiance, and subtle comedy. The controversy around adult humor, sexual themes, and satire became a test of endurance and creativity. O'Neill recalled that the scrutiny, while intense, made him and the team more inventive in how they delivered lines, framed jokes, and timed reactions. Every sigh, slouch, and sarcastic glance became a tool to convey character depth while navigating the external pressures of critics and moral watchdogs. Amanda Bearse, who played Marcy Rhodes, offered a perspective on the off-screen dynamics. She noted that while the characters were satirical opposites, the actors formed a strong bond that translated seamlessly on screen. This camaraderie became a protective shield against public judgment, allowing them to experiment, improvise, and fully embrace their roles without fear of faltering under scrutiny. Together, the cast reflections highlight a vital element often overlooked. Behind the laughter were humans navigating fame, criticism, and societal expectations. Their personal experiences, anxieties, and triumphs shaped the authenticity of the Bundy family, making the show not just a comedy, but a lived experience captured on screen, resonating with audiences far beyond what the creators had imagined.